Kora was 4 months pregnant, but felt good, so she kept studying and working. There were a couple of homeless standing near the metro entrance asking for money, as usual. Kora always gave them something. She would buy them coffee and a pastry to give them, or she'd give them coins. Today, despite being late, she did the same thing. She couldn't ignore people who had nothing, and always did. Suddenly, she noticed someone new with them. It was a man about 30 years old, dirty, and on crutches. Their eyes accidentally met. His eyes seemed so sweet and honest to her. She bought another coffee and hot dog to give him. He was embarrassed. She remembered her childhood for some reason. Her parents were alcoholics. The house was always dirty, stinky, and full of strangers, fights, and hunger. Kora remembered how she was often hungry. At 5, she had to go dumpster diving just to find something to eat. Sometimes her neighbor fed her. One day, she couldn't take it anymore and called the police and social services to tell them how this child was living. Kora remembered how she wept and called for her mom when they took her. But her mother was so drunk, she didn't even turn her head. The orphanage was clean, warm, and they fed her on time. Despite many people saying she had very bad genetics, she was a smart and excellent student. She graduated from high school and got into college. She lived in a dorm and worked after school. She would spend all of her time with books. One day, her roommates invited Kora to a private party. She decided she'd earned a break and agreed, which she regretted quickly. The party was full of spoiled rich kids and Kora didn't know what to talk about with them. Someone secretly poured alcohol in her drink, and since she had never drunk before, she got drunk quickly. She tried to get up, but fell. Everyone laughed. The girls who invited her told rude jokes about her. She wanted to cry because she was being ridiculed. One guy offered her his hand and helped her up. She then left immediately. She didn't know where she was or how she'd get home, so she just started walking along the road. A car unexpectedly pulled up behind her. It was Sam, the guy who helped Kora up. "Get in, I'll take you home," he offered. She looked at him carefully. She didn't trust him because he had been with them. "Don't be scared, get in," he repeated. Sam was a tall, handsome guy who was fairly intelligent. He was polite talking to Kora and said he knew that she was from an orphanage, but he adored her for getting to where she was without any help. He took her home and kissed her hand when he said goodbye. Kora knew she had fallen in love. She could only think about him and that kiss. Her insides burned and her legs shook. Sam called her a few days later, and they started dating. Their love was insanely passionate. Her roommates were green with envy, and everyone expected him to get bored and dump her. When Sam's parents learned who he was dating, an argument broke out. They didn't approve and said he should find a rich girl. But he said he loved her and wouldn't break up with her. So, his father said if he didn't do what they wanted, he would have to earn money for himself and his poor girlfriend. Sam left home and they rented a small apartment outside town. He started working as a taxi driver. Kora and Sam were happy and enjoyed every minute they were together. They wanted to get married. One day, Kora was waiting for him to get home from work as she always did, but he didn't come. She was worried, but calmed herself by saying, "He's just late." Her phone rang and a stranger said that Sam passed in a car crash. She thought her life had ended along with Sam right then and there. His parents hated her and blamed her for what happened. Her life then was all a haze. She woke up, went to school, and then to work as a routine. She soon learned she was pregnant. She swore to herself she wouldn't abandon the child, even though she was terrified. She thought about an abortion when she was absolutely depressed a few times, but knew she couldn't do it. She decided to tell Sam's parents they would be grandparents. They were furious because their son died because of her, and she then decided to hang a child over their heads. They threw her out. Kora lay in bed, holding Sam's shirt close. She would give anything for him to be back. Kora didn't want to believe she'd never see him again. She needed to get herself together and keep living for the baby. Kora saved on everything and kept every penny because she wouldn't be able to work after giving birth for a little while. Nevertheless, she still fed the homeless outside the metro and gave them coins. She saw the same guy again and gave him coffee and some more money. He was embarrassed again and lowered his eyes and mumbled a thank you. Since she had seen him the first time, he hadn't left her thoughts. He suddenly smiled the next day when she approached, looking her right in the eyes, and offered a small, white rose. "I was waiting for her," he said unexpectedly. Kora was struck by his eyes again. You could drown in them. Kora only thought about his eyes all day and night, and shivers ran across her skin. She understood she was anxiously waiting to meet him again and was angry at that. The next morning, he was missing. She was upset at first, but then thought it's probably for the better. Suddenly, some police cars drove up. The cops came out and screamed to get on the ground and not move. Kora was stunned. They were led by the same guy, but he was in a police uniform and didn't have crutches. When it all ended, he went to her. "Hi, I'm Eric. We haven't been properly introduced. I know you're shocked. I'll explain." Eric said he was a policeman and worked undercover. "I have to go, but let's meet outside the metro tomorrow," Eric said and kissed Kora's hand. She had doubts. She liked him and wanted to go, but felt like she was betraying Sam. She decided to meet him once, just to talk. They walked in a park. She told Eric about her childhood, about Sam, about how she was alone, and how her fiancé's parents tossed her out when they heard she was pregnant. Talking to Eric was easy, and it was like they had known each other for ages. "Let me be your friend. I'll always be with you, and you can always count on me," Eric said, walking her home. He had been with her ever since, including when she gave birth and when her son couldn't sleep and cried. Eric stayed with her, slept on the couch in the living room, and took care of him as soon as he cried so Kora could get some sleep. Their feelings for each other grew every day, and it took a lot of effort to keep them contained. Eric adored Kora's son and treated him as his own. 6 months passed. One day, Eric woke up thinking, this couldn't go on. He loved her and her son and wanted to be more than just a friend. He bought a ring and flowers and proposed. She was covered in goosebumps. She couldn't say no because she had loved him for a long time. Also, she saw how well he treated her son and raised him as his own. So she said yes. Their first night was one of love and passion. She dreamed of Sam, but he smiled gingerly and said that she should be happy because she earned it more than anyone else. She woke up that morning and no longer felt the shame she did before. They were soon married. They got along wonderfully. Eric's parents treated Kora well and loved the baby as their own grandchild. One day, Eric decided to visit Sam's parents to tell them they now had a grandson, and he wanted them to be involved in his life. An unhappy, thin woman opened the door. Eric introduced himself and said he was Kora's husband and that they had a 7-month-old grandchild who looked exactly like Sam, and showed them a picture. She wanted to toss Eric out, but her husband came. He told his wife to calm down and that they had dumped their grief on Kora enough. She wasn't at fault. He took the picture and his eyes filled with tears. Eric said if they wanted to talk to their grandson, he and Kora would be delighted, and left. There was a knock at the door. Kora opened it and was stunned. It was Sam's parents. "Kora, we know you have the right to hate us. We treated you horrendously. Please forgive us. We only want a chance to talk to our grandson." Kora stepped aside and invited them in. When she saw him, Sam's mom burst into tears. He looked exactly like Sam. She asked for forgiveness again. Kora smiled and said of course she'd forgiven them. That evening, she talked to Eric about the unexpected visit. "I'm so happy you invited them, and we made our peace. A weight's been lifted off my shoulders." Eric smiled and was happy it wasn't a waste. "That's great. I'm happy our son has another grandmother and grandfather," he said. Once thinking her life was over, she didn't give up. And now Kora's life was full of wonder and happiness and color. And she learned that the most important thing is to keep your humanity in any situation.